Future Market has thousands of board games at discounted prices. Click the direct link below to see all of those discounted games. Hello my friends, today we're going to be going in an elevator. Sometimes we're going up, sometimes we're going down. Today we're going to look at a game called Up or Down. This one is from Capstone Games, and it's designed by Kramer and Kiesling. Let's take a look. I'll see you on the other side. Now in this game there's cards from number 1 all the way to 126. Now you'll only use a certain amount of cards depending on the amount of players, and you're going to be trying to put these cards in order in your columns, and you're going to different floors from the elevator. Now over the course of the game you're going to be playing into columns. You can have the maximum of 3 of them, and you'll start a column, and once you put the second card there you'll be deciding whether it is going down in numbers or up in numbers like this. Now, at the end of the game, you're going to be scoring for your columns that still exist. And what you'll do is you'll look at the total number of cards, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, multiplied by the color that you have the most of. We have blue, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 times 4, we got 28 points. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards, and we have 3 reds, so we're going to have 15 points. Here we just have 1, 2, 3, 4, but there's only 1, so that's only 4 points. Now those 3 columns I just showed you was like at the end of the game, if you will. Now let me show you how you get these cards. Well, there is a display like this of 6 cards, and what you'll do is everyone has a hand of 3 cards. On your turn you'll take a card, and you'll place it in between 2 numbers. Like I'm going to place this 26, it's in between 14 and 28, because all these cards go in order clockwise. So I'm going to put this card here. Now I can take the 14 or the 28. If I want to take the 14, I'll go like this, and then this just kind of moves there and everything's still in order. The 14 that I take, I will either start a new column, or I will place it in a column going up or down following that column's direction as shown before. Then I can either take a random card, or I can take one right off the top to fill my hand. That's your whole turn. You'll simply keep taking turns. Eventually these piles are going to dwindle down, so you'll be drawing no cards left, because there's a certain amount of cards depending on the players that are playing in the game. And you'll play your final 3 cards like normal, and then the game ends. Now the other twist is sometimes you might find yourself unable to or not wanting to continue a pile. Like for example, let's just say I have a card and I can't play it anywhere. For example, let's say none of the numbers fit, or it's my last card and I have 26 for example, and I can't place it anywhere because it can't go below 3, it can't go above 41, and it can't go below 11. So you would take a column and you would flip them over and put them in a discard pile. Each of those are worth 1 point at the end of the game, so they don't get you nothing. In this case, it actually got me the same amount of points, so that wouldn't be terrible. But now you have another column that you can do it. And you can do this either if you want to, or if you can't place a card anytime during the game, but a lot of times it might happen towards the end when you're trying to finish things up. That's pretty much the game. You've counted up all the points as I showed you before. Anything from your discard pile is a point. Whoever has the most at the end is the winner. Okay, before I start here, I just want to get into my biases. I love little card games like this. Wolfgang, Kramer, and Michael Kiesling, I love both of those designers, and when they work together, I generally will like their games, so that's why I was excited about this one. Did it live up to my hopes? This made my top 10 most anticipated games for Gen Con because of all this. Did it live up to that? Well, let's talk about what I liked about it first. This game was originally released, I believe, last year at Essen, or maybe even the year before. And the art on those cards were just like colors and numbers. The art on these cards are beautiful. I think Kwanchai Morio was one of the artists, illustrators on this. And wow, it looks really good. And there's different art on pretty much every card. There's some things that they kind of like reuse, but then put it on a different color. And each color has like a different background as like where the elevator is. So it appears that every card has different art, but it looks nice. I love the way this looks, and I like that they used a lot of different art in different ways. Like they'll use like the same picture of people with balloons in an elevator, but then you'll see them in like different ways, like all the way open, some of them closed, stuff like that. But it still looks nice. This game has simple mechanisms, but tons of depth, and that's what I look for in a game, my depth to complexity ratio. How deep can a game be without having too much overhead, just rules for the sake of having rules? This is great with that. This, I'm going to say, is like a crunchier version of a game that I loved previously called Ohanami. That was like part of my top card games of the year that came out, where that game is very similar, where you're making 3 columns. They're going either all up or all down. That game scores very differently, where like you would score different things depending on which round it was. So sometimes you're collecting things to make huge points at the end of the game as opposed to now. But the biggest difference is that game you're just drafting cards. Here, it's so much more crunchy because you're playing a card not from your hand, not because you're placing, because you want to place it right now, like you would in Ohana, draft a card, place a card. Here you're placing a card to take a different card that's next to that card. So it's like another level, and it's not like earth-shattering rocket science, but it does take your brain to a different level, and the decision space becomes has a much higher cognitive load. It's like, wait a minute, okay, I'm playing this, and I'm going to pick up this. So that's all you do is playing a card to take a card. But man, it adds another step that is hard. It's quite honestly, it's a little hard for newer players to grasp. I'd say Ohana is great for gamers, but it's also great for mass market. This one, I think because of how thinky it can get, it's, they're going to have to play a full game for them to be like, okay, now I think I see what goes on, right? It's a little harder to get into because of that, oh, okay, I'm playing the card here, and now I'm going to take this one, now what, So I've played this with gamers and with non-gamers, and the non-gamers struggled with it a little bit more, even though it's simple, there's just a lot to think about, even though it is simple, if that makes sense. I like that you draw a card, not that you want, but will help you get the next card. Because when you're done playing a card, you get to draw a card. And you can draw from a random stack, or you get to draw from the top face-up card, which is always nice. But when you're drawing a card, it's like another thing to train your brain. It's like, hey, you're not drawing that card because you want to play it. You're drawing that card because you want to place it in between two cards because the card you want is there. And another thing to think about. This is another way to train your brain. I love that aspect of the game. I like that you can be possibly also setting yourself up for next turn. So hey, I'm going to play this card. I'm going to grab this other one. I'm going to play this 75, and I am going to take this 74, and I'm going to place it. Well, next time I might be able to place like an 80, take the 75, and place it just above the other one. So sometimes you can set yourself up for other things, but other players are taking stuff too that might not be there next turn. The drawing the cards, I do really like that they allowed you to choose face up or face down. Now the face up pile is probably going to run out before the other one. That tends to happen, but I like that they give you those choices. I love not just thinking of what you're playing, but thinking of playing for what you want next round. So it's like, okay, I'm going to play this to take this to put this here, but I'm also planning because there's another card out there I want that I can get. And so sometimes you're planning multiple rounds ahead. Lower player count games, it might still be there. Higher player count games, there's not as much planning. There's a short game version, which I highly recommend you playing for your first game because it's shorter. It doesn't really need to be a whole lot longer. I think the game feels fine with the short, but even better is the game is less punishing. And I'll tell you why in a minute because I'm going to start getting into some of the things that I didn't like about the game as much. First of all, the setting up for a specific player count, hey, you need the game to scale for different player counts because you want the game to feel tight. So obviously you're going to add in different amount of cards and numbers of cards depending on the player count, and that takes some time. Hey, last game I played for 2 players, this game I'm going to play for 4. I've got to get all these other cards back in there and figure it out. So setup can take a little bit of time just depending on that. But it's necessary to make the game work the way it works. And here's where I get to the punishing part, is the last few turns after the piles run out, so you'll have 3 cards left, you still got to play through those and then all that stuff. It can be pretty punishing sometimes because you might be forcing to not be able to play something and forcing yourself to discard one of those columns you have. And you're like, oh my gosh, I've played all the cards in my hand and there's just these, I got to get this card, and it just, boom. So that could be a little deflating for some people. It might happen to you on your first play because you're not really looking for that, and it's quite punishing. The shorter game is more forgiving because, well, you've got less time to screw up one of your piles, and you've got you don't have as much time to string out the pile as far as it can go, meaning you'll have less room to put stuff in at the end of the game. So that's another reason why I like the short game, is it's less punishing for the end game of possibly needing to discard one of your piles at the very end of the game, and that can happen, and that hurts. The higher player counts in this game, they don't really add much other than downtime. I think this is best as a 2-player game because you can plan more. I talked about thinking forward. You can play cards and think of 2 or 3 turns ahead. Higher player counts, the whole board's going to be different by the time you go, so you can't really plan as much. And they're not really adding anything to the interaction of the game. You're all building your own thing. So higher player counts really just add a lot of downtime. I don't think I'd ever play with 5 or 6. I think 2 to 4 is about it. And short game for sure for 3 or 4 player count. But overall, I really enjoyed this game. I think if you're looking for sort of a quote-unquote filler card game that looks amazing, that seems pretty simple, but at the same time, you can play this kind of casually, talking while you're doing it, but at the same time, you can also focus very hard and get caught up into the crunchiness of the puzzle. And for all those reasons, this game is staying in my gaming library, so it's getting a Saxophone Serenade. So here we go. Game Toppers upgrades every game you play, being the one table to rule them all with Game Toppers, leg kits, dining covers, premium game mats, and more. In their 5.0 Kickstarter, they found a way to deflate prices to pre-pandemic levels without sacrificing their quality brand, and in some cases by $200, plus dropping the shipping price as much as 50%, saving another $100. Go to GameToppersLLC.com to late pledge now.